I went from this to this. So join me as I go through the steps using Luminar Neo, an affordable and easy to use image editor. I recently created my first video tutorial using Luminar Neo, but something just wasn't right. After watching it back a few times, I realized I'd missed the mark. First, how I approached the demonstration really didn't align with my intended message. I focused too much on price and editing like a pro when I really wanted to share how easy it is to fix in-camera mistakes using Luminar Neo. Another thing that bugged me is that I was a little too heavy-handed on the final image. It was just too crunchy and my subconscious knew it. Now, I didn't receive any negative feedback. No one called me out on this. It just gnawed on my brain for a couple of days, and then I realized where I'd gone off the rails. So that video is gone, and I hope you'll join me as I share how I use Luminar Neo to fix these types of situations. Nothing substitutes good exposure in camera, but occasionally we don't get the opportunity to choose the right settings due to circumstances beyond our control. So when life gives you lemons, you add some bourbon, some simple syrup, some ice, and you enjoy a whiskey sour while you're editing your images. Hooah! Obviously, you shouldn't drink and edit. Wait until you're happy with your results, and then sip to your success. Seriously though, Luminar Neo is a powerful and creative tool, and I want to do it justice. Not because I'm an affiliate, but because I like it, I use it, and I want to be a valuable representative of the product to you. Adobe is not the only game in town. What editing software are you currently using? Do you like it? Does it meet your needs? Or are you looking for a change? Please post in the comments, as these conversations, experiences, and insight help all of us. Like many photographers, I've been a Lightroom Classic user for years, not only because it provides good editing features, but it's also a good file management solution. So I don't see myself completely leaving Lightroom anytime soon.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
However, I do believe the Luminar Neo plugin for Lightroom Classic provides faster options for getting the look that you're after. From the Lightroom Classic library module, I'm going to open up an image. This is a Barbuda Bark Tree Anole, otherwise known as a big green lizard, chilling on a fence post outside of our bungalow where my wife and I were vacationing in Antigua to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary. And no, I don't know how she's put up with me all these years either. As you can see, the Anole was in the shade and at a distance, and even using the OM5 with a 14 to 150 millimeter f4 to 5.6 Mark II lens, which is a great travel kit, 300 millimeter full frame equivalent, was not enough. I did try to slowly get closer, but I spooked him, so this is the only image that I have. To access the Luminar Neo plugin, just select the Develop module, and there's two different ways to do it. You can either go up to Photo and select Edit In and Luminar Neo, or right-click anywhere in the image, scroll down to Edit In, and select Luminar Neo. Ignore this message and just click Next or Edit. And once the Luminar Neo plugin launches, you will see Presets and Edit. Luminar Neo is a great source for presets. As you can see on the right side, they have a whole list of them. It's also smart enough to determine what type of image you're working on and will make a suggestion here in the upper corner as to a preferred preset. Now it's selected nature and will load the available presets. If you hover your cursor over each preset, you get a preview of what it will do. And if you click on the preset, you can adjust how much of that preset you want to apply to your image from 0 to 100. However, because the exposure on this particular image is not the best, a preset probably is not the solution in this particular case. So we are going to edit it manually. Go on up to the top and click Edit. On the left-hand side of the edit window, you will see an option to add layers if you want to use multiple layers. And then on the right is where all the magic happens. All of these tools are at your disposal. Don't let this overwhelm you. The learning curve on Luminar Neo is actually not steep at all. If we go to the top, there's two options, Tools and Edits. Edits is like history. So as you make changes to the image, whatever you use will be listed here, and you can actually go back in and modify or delete as needed. So from the Tools menu, other than the very top options, Layer Properties and Crop, everything else is organized in a category. Image quality, we've got new AI tools, noiseless and super sharp. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Then there's essentials, which has tools like develop, enhance, erase. There's landscape, creative, portrait, and professional. One nice thing that Luminar Neo does is allows you to organize these in a way that makes your editing process fast. So you don't have to scroll through all of these every time. For example, right-click on develop, click add to favorites, and it'll create a new favorites category at the top with that develop tool. And I'm going to do that with enhance because I use that a lot. I'm going to do that with structure. Then you can basically go through and do that with any of the tools that you use on a regular basis. Another helpful thing that Luminar Neo provides is information on a specific tool. And you get a short description about the tool, but if you click on the Learn More link, you'll be provided with a web page that has all the information you'd need, as well as video tutorials. Now that we have the interface the way that we want it, we can use Luminar Neo to get the best out of this image. First thing I'm going to do is crop it. My initial intention is to post this on Instagram, so I'm going to use a 4:5 crop, and I want just the anole itself with as little of the fence as possible. Click apply. And now we have a very clean, simple image, just focusing on the subject. We've got clean lines and edges and nothing to distract us. Another thing I really like about Luminar Neo is that every tool has its own masking feature. So click the tool, select masking, and we have brush, linear gradient, radial gradient, color, luminosity, mask, and object select. Now, if you click object select, the AI will do its thing. If you hover your cursor over something in the image, it will highlight it to make a mask. Another option is to click on mask, and AI will go the extra step of creating these different options for you. So sky, flora, architecture, or natural ground. So it will try and determine specific masks for specific areas of the image. Now, this image doesn't have a sky, but because of the distance between the subject and the background, you have that wonderful bokeh, and sky will actually work pretty well. Selects most of it. As with any mask, you can go in here, click brush and paint, and we are going to add to this mask. You can either use the size slider to adjust the size of the brush or use the bracket keys on your keyboard. I'm just going to paint in where we want that mask to be. And then if you go over, you can select erase and remove that extra part of the mask that you don't want. So if I go back out to the main menu, because what I want to do is adjust the anole and the fence, not the background, but I've selected the background as a mask. Come down here to mask options, select invert. And now when I go to adjustments, it's now only impacting the anole and the fence. So I'm going to use the exposure slider to bring that light back into the anole and the fence post. Make it right about there for both of those. I'm going to use the highlight slider to bring back a little bit of the texture out of that fence. If I go too far in either direction, I can double click on that dot on the slider and it'll go back to where it started. So I'll bring that down just a little bit. Shadows, just a touch. There we go. That looks good so far. Now that I have the initial exposure on the anole and the fence post where I want it, the lighting on the anole, the lizard, is still a little flat. So what I want to do is give it some depth. So I'm going to go into masking, brush. I'm going to adjust my brush slightly smaller. And then I'm going to basically touch up where I want some highlights. Select adjustments and then choose the exposure slider, and you can adjust those highlights. Obviously, this is a subtle process, so don't go too far. We just want a little bit of more light in those areas. And you also can use the shadow slider to make it even more subtle. I tend to use shadow even more than I do exposure. In the way that looks right there. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the shadows, for the dark areas. I'm going to select the brush, get it to the size that I want, Be right in front of that eye, right behind that eye, behind the cheek. And you go back to adjustment and exposure, and you just bring it down just a little bit. Again, don't want to go too far. This is about subtleties and giving your subject a little bit of depth. That looks really good. Now, the other area I really want to tackle is this eye. It needs a little bit more depth. So go into masking, brush. I'm going to adjust our brush size, and I really want to bring out the light in that eye. There's some catch light, not a lot, but we can bring that up. So we can bring out what catch light's there. We can also lighten up some of the areas around the eye itself. I like the look of that. So now that I have the lighting on the subject the way I want, let's bring out some additional detail. And as I zoom in here, you can see that Mzuiko 14 to 150 millimeter Mark II lens is a pretty sharp lens. Most Micro Four Thirds lenses are, but we want to bring a little bit more detail into the subject. There's a couple different ways that we can do that. Now there's structure, which is very similar to texture and clarity in Lightroom Classic. You can see here we go to the extreme with the amount and with the boost. We can get a lot of good detail contrast out of that. There is also details, which is more of the sharpening. You can do small details, which really brings that out. You can see, really pops those scales. Medium or large details. And I just want to bring out the details in the lizard itself. So I will select masking, object select, and I just want the lizard. And this is good enough. So you can see that it's selected some of the fence. If you want to remove that, go back into brush, erase, adjust your brush size, and let's go ahead and just delete that part. In fact, I really don't want to bother with the details on any of that because it's in the background. And let's get in between the toes. That should be good. So I just want to adjust the detail sliders kind of to taste. That looks pretty good. Zoom out. Looks really good. Then we'll do the same thing with the fence. To give it a little bit more texture. So far, so good. Now let's give it a little vignette. I do want to give it a little more color in regard to vibrance. So I'm going to go to the essentials category, select color, and do more of a global vibrance. Just kick it up a little bit like that. And I like that. Perfect. With just a few clicks and a couple tools, I was able to bring life back into this underexposed image. Luminar Neo gives you a couple different ways to see before and after. If you go down to the bottom of the screen here and click the eyeball, you can see before and after. What a dramatic change. Or you can click the slider. A lot of people like this one where you can see the before and after with the slider. And the final step is to click apply. Now the final image is back in the Lightroom Classic catalog, and you can go up to hit File and export as you see fit. Correcting these issues using a tool like Luminar Neo is not cheating. It's recovering what should have been. And while we always want to do it right in camera, embrace second chances and use the technology we have to recover from unavoidable situations. The universe put that lizard in the shade across a courtyard, giving me only seconds to capture the moment. But it also gave me the opportunity to use Luminar Neo and challenged me with, what you gonna do to fix it, pal?
We fixed the glitch.
Did this video provide any insight into Luminar Neo? If yes, please like and subscribe as I'll have more tutorials, photography tips, Micro Four Thirds goodness, and of course, discussions about gear. Lots and lots of gear. Luminar Neo is an affordable alternative to Adobe that won't lock you into a perpetual subscription model if you don't want one. Have you thought about using it? Well, if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Regardless of the gear or the software that you're using, just get outside and create. Earth is art. Be the artist. Take care.